The samurai, the elite warrior class of feudal Japan, emerging prominently in the 12th century and evolving to become influential administrative, military, and cultural figures until their abolition in the late 19th century Meiji Restoration. Initially, they served provincial lords, rising to power amid civil unrest, enforcing and maintaining peace under the governance of the strict ethical code of Bushido, which emphasized honor, loyalty, martial skills, alongside a commitment to the arts and education. This is part 1 of my video on famous samurai, where I will talk about the lives of Uesugi Kenshin, Minamoto no Yoshitsune, and finally Sanada Yukimura. If you'd like to see part 2, let me know in the comments. But as is customary and good manners on this channel, allow me to first welcome you. For the newcomers, it's good to meet you, and for those returning, great to have you back here with me. Supporting the channel is as easy as enjoying the channel, and the like and subscribe button is only 2 clicks away. Further to that, take a look at the video description, and you'll find where you need to go if you want to go above and beyond. But first, let's all get nice and relaxed, and we begin with the life of Uesugi Kenshin. Originally named Kagetora, Kenshin was born as one of the youngest sons of the distinguished warrior Nagao Tamekage, not of the Uesugi, but of the Nagao clan. His father had earned recognition by defeating Uesugi lords Sadanori, Akisada, and Funayoshi, and served as a retainer to the Yamanouchi branch of the Uesugi clan. Tamekage's fortunes began to decline due to the increasing conflicts with the Iko-Iki, a powerful religious and political movement in Hokuriku, fueled by the rising influence of the Honganji. This struggle reached a climax in 1536, when Tamekage led his forces into Echu, only to be ambushed and killed by Enami Kazuyori at Sendano, leading to a disastrous defeat. In the aftermath of his father's death, the Nagao family found itself in turmoil. Tamekage's eldest son, Harukage, swiftly moved to consolidate power, succeeding after a fratricidal struggle that claimed the life of his brother Kageyasu. During this period of familial strife, Kenshin was sent away from the heart of the conflict to the temple of Rinsenji. There, from the age of 7 to 14, he immersed himself in study, martial arts, and Zen Buddhism, preparing for a life that he could not yet foresee. By the age of 14, the political situation in Echigo had deteriorated under Harukage's rule, who was likely plagued by poor health and unable to secure the allegiance of key local leaders. Recognizing the leadership vacuum and the impending collapse of their province, several of Kenshin's father's old allies, including Usami Sadamitsu, approached him. They implored him to return to Echigo and challenge his brother for leadership. Initially hesitant to wage war against his own family, Kenshin eventually accepted the necessity of his return, persuaded that it was the only way to restore stability and ensure the survival of his homeland. At the age of 15, Kenshin, then known as Nagao Kagetora, was appointed joint commander of Tochio Castle. His successful defense of the castle against rebels solidified his reputation and marked the beginning of his rise within the Nagao clan. By 1548, Kenshin had effectively taken control of the clan from his older brother, Nagao Harukage, who relinquished his leadership and titles due to his failing health, and 5 years later he passed away in 1553. Now at the age of 19, Kenshin officially became the head of the Nagao clan and moved into Kasugayama Castle, maintaining his role as a vassal to the Uesugi clan. His leadership was soon tested in 1551, when Uesugi Norimasa, the head of the Uesugi clan, sought refuge with Kenshin after being dispatched by Hojo Ujiyasu's expansion into the Kanto region. Kenshin agreed to shelter Norimasa under the condition that he would be adopted as Norimasa's heir and receive the titles of Lord of Echigo and the Kanto Kanrei, a shogunate deputy. These terms secured Kenshin's position and initiated his transformation from Nagao Kagetora to Uesugi Masatora. In 1552, now bearing the Uesugi name, Kenshin began military campaigns against the Hojo clan, aiming to consolidate his power over Echigo and assert his authority over the region. Despite these efforts, significant parts of Echigo remained independent of Kenshin's direct control, and the external threats loomed large. In 1553, Kenshin faced an appeal for aid from Ogasawara Nagatoki and Murakami Yoshikyo, lords from Shinano, who were contending with the advances of Takeda Shingen. This formidable warlord had scored significant victories in Shinano, prompting Kenshin to prepare for conflict, not just against the Hojo, but also the Takeda. The dynamics of this period were complicated, constantly shifting alliances, and moreover outbreaking conflicts. By 1561, Kenshin adopted the name Uesugi Terutora upon becoming the head of the Yamanouchi Uesugi family and taking up the role of Kanto Kanrei. His spiritual journey and dedication to Buddhism later led him to adopt the monastic name Kenshin, which he is most famously known for today. This period marked his evolution from a clan leader to a figure of broader historical and cultural significance. Well, the rivalry between Uesugi Kenshin and Takeda Shingen, two of the most prominent daimyo of Japan's Sengoku period, epitomizes the era's complex web of military strategy, personal valor, and shifting alliances. It's most famously encapsulated in the series of battles at Kawanakajima, which occurred intermittently over a decade, with each skirmish increasing in intensity and scale. The most significant of these clashes, the Fourth Battle of Kawanakajima in 1561, was not only a test of military skill, but a chance to showcase innovative tactics. Kenshin, anticipating the grueling nature of direct combat, devised a rotating front line system known as Kakuyoku, or in our English vernacular, the wings of the crane, where fresh troops continually replaced the weary or wounded. This strategic innovation maintained the strength and morale of his forces throughout the battle, much like what the Romans used to do. A little bit different, the same principle. Well, during this confrontation, Kenshin himself joined the battle, and he charged directly at Shingen, managing to breach the enemy lines and engage in direct combat. According to the military chronicle Koyogunkan, in a dramatic face-to-face duel, Shingen defended himself using his iron war fan against Kenshin's sword strikes. A rather iconic moment in samurai lore that shows the ferocity and personal bravery of both leaders. And quite a poetic description, I think. One can only imagine the paintings and artworks that could have came out of this event. Well, despite Kenshin's tactical ingenuity and personal courage, the battle concluded without a definitive victor. Both armies suffered devastating losses, with some estimates suggesting that each side lost a significant portion of their troops. The aftermath left the political landscape of the region unstable, and neither side was able to claim decisive control over the other. A big pile of dead bodies, for not really much in return. Of course, the rivalry continued beyond the battlefield into strategic and economic arenas. Following an incident with a Hojo clan, former allies of Shingen imposed a salt embargo on Kai province. Kenshin saw both a humanitarian need and an economic opportunity. He sent salt from his own reserves at Shingen, to Shingen rather, a move that was both an act of respect and a calculated decision to allow Echigo's merchants to gain a foothold in Kai. It was multifaceted, alleviating the immediate needs of Kai's population, while also establishing a profitable trade route for Echigo. Now, Kenshin's complex feelings towards Shingen were further highlighted upon Shingen's death in 1573. Kenshin's private mourning and his poignant remark about losing a great rival illustrated deep-seated respect for Shingen, not merely as an adversary, but as a peer in the chaotic world they both were forced to live through. Kenshin's tribute reflected a warrior's respect for a worthy opponent, and a lament for the loss of what he saw as a singular epic in the era of the samurai. Well, Kenshin's involvement in the broader political and military machinations of the Sengoku period extended well beyond his legendary rivalry with Shingen. His activities during this time illustrate a strategic approach to both warfare and governance, seeking not only to expand his domain, but also to solidify his status as both a cultural and military leader. In 1599, his journey to Kyoto, accompanied by a substantial retinue of 5,000 men, was a strategic display of power and respect towards the shogunate. This visit significantly bolstered his reputation, portraying him as a cultured leader and a formidable warlord, aligning himself with the central authority and enhancing his own stature with the political elite. In the same period, under the urging of Uesugi Norimasa, Kenshin took action against the Hojo clan to reclaim control of the Kanto region. By 1560, he succeeded in this endeavor, demonstrating his military capabilities and strategic skill. His governance reforms in southern Echigo, where he established councils to oversee mobilization and maintain stability, show another sophisticated approach to administration, ensuring his territory was well managed and prepared for conflicts present and future. Thus, a new campaign begins against Hojo Ieyasu between 1560 and 1561. Kenshin was successful in capturing strategic locations like Numata Castle and Umayabashi Castle, which culminated in the first siege of Odawara Castle. Although he burned the town and breached the defenses, the castle itself remained unconquered, largely due to the impending threat posed by Shingen. Nonetheless, Kenshin's capture of Kamakura was a significant achievement, adding to his territorial gains. In 1563, some 2 years later, he demonstrated his loyalty and strategic foresight by coming to the aid of his ally, Ota Sukemasa, who was besieged by both Hojo Ieyasu and Takeda Shingen. His intervention not only reinforced his alliances, but positioned him as a central figure in this new regional power dynamic. But of course, the allegiances of the era were always shifting, exemplified in 1566, when the Yura clan of Kozuke province switched their loyalty to the Hojo clan. In response, Kenshin, in 1574, commanded the Satake clan to attack the Kanayama castle. He participated personally in the siege, although the castle did manage to withstand the assault. In 1563, his military endeavors expanded into Kozuke province, where he successfully besieged Karasawa Castle, held by one Sano Masatsune, and swiftly brought smaller local warlords into submission. By 1564, his control had solidified over not only Kozuke, but also Echizen. During the same period, Kenshin's political skill was evident in his diplomatic engagements. In June of 1564, he formed an alliance with Hojo Ieyasu and Oda Nobunaga. However, the tenuous nature of these alliances was highlighted when, in March 1565, Kenshin discontinued peace negotiations with Shingen, reaffirming his alliance with the Hojo clan instead. Now, his relation with Tokugawa Ieyasu further shows his diplomatic strategy. After Ieyasu had severed ties with the Takeda clan, he reached out to Kenshin, culminating in a formal alliance by October 1565. This alliance not only a significant political maneuver, but also as a tactical positioning against their common adversary. Ieyasu was coming after Takeda Shingen as well. Well, the politics of Echu province also captured Kenshin's attention, where he initially played the role of mediator between the feuding Jinbo and Shina clans. His involvement eventually escalated into direct military action, leading to his takeover of the Jinbo clan by aligning with the Shina. This move, however, was not permanent, as Kenshin later turned against the Shina, taking their main stronghold in 1570 and orchestrating the assassination of Shina Yasutane in 1576. By the 1570s, Kenshin had significantly expanded his domain to include multiple provinces along the Hokuriku seaboard. His governance and military strategies were continually tested, particularly in the 1577 Battle of Tedorigawa against Oda Nobunaga, Despite being completely outnumbered, Kenshin had the victory, and a decisive one at that, exploiting Nobunaga's strategic errors and solidifying his reputation as a great and cunning leader. Kenshin's interaction with Ashikaga Yoshiaki and his subsequent involvement in broader opposition against Nobunaga following Yoshiaki's expulsion from power in 1573 shows once more the intricate web of alliances and enmities that defined the Sengoku period. His ability to leverage these relationships and his military capabilities allowed him to maintain and expand his influence. It also allowed him to stay alive for a little bit longer. Assassinations were quite the popular order of the day. Well, nobody lives forever. In the twilight of his life, Uesugi Kenshin prepared to escalate his military campaign against Nobunaga by gathering a grand army in October of 1577. His strategic endeavors were further amplified by forging an alliance with Takeda Katsuyori in 1578, aimed at consolidating forces against their common adversary. However, Kenshin's ambitious plans were abruptly halted by his untimely death in the spring of 1578, amid preparations for prolonged conflict. His demise, attributed to esophageal cancer, came after a period of poor health, during which he reportedly suffered severe pain, described metaphorically in the old sources as an iron ball in his chest. Doesn't sound nice. Well, the circumstances surrounding his death of course, fueled debate and theories, including a storied speculation that he fell victim to a ninja assassination. The theory suggests that a ninja concealed within the cesspool beneath Kenshin's latrine fatally wounded him with a spear or a sword. The speculation is intertwined with accounts of Kenshin's declining health, suggesting that if an assassin was involved, he may have merely expedited the inevitable. Well, Kenshin's own death poem reflects a contemplative acceptance of his fate, perhaps diminishing the likelihood of an assassination. Personally, I don't think it's very likely. The period is subject to a great amount of romanticism, especially with ninjas and all the rest. We can't speculate too much. Well, his death, of course, left a significant power vacuum and initiated a succession crisis within his domain. Without direct heirs, Kenshin had adopted 2 sons during his lifetime. Uesugi Kagekatsu, his nephew, was likely adopted to mitigate any potential conflicts with the family and supporters of Kagekatsu's father, Nagao Masakage. Uesugi Kagetora, originally a son of Hojo Ieyasu and adopted later, was brought into the family to strengthen the defenses along Echigo's borders. The succession plans, however, remained a little unclear. Some historical interpretations suggest that Kenshin intended a gradual transition of leadership to Kagekatsu, while others believe he planned to divide his holdings between his 2 adopted sons, a decision that would influence the future stability and governance of his territories. Right, so I hope you're enjoying this so far. The next biography we have is for Minamoto no Yoshitsune. Let's get into it. Oh, and if you're enjoying this, give it a like and subscribe. Born amidst the tumult of the Heiji Rebellion in 1160, Yoshitsune was the youngest of Minamoto no Yoshitomo and Tokiwa Gosen's 3 children. His early years were shadowed by the brutality of the political upheavals that led to his father and 2 elder brothers' deaths, which compelled Yoshitsune, his mother, and the siblings that remained to flee the capital in desperation. These formative years, Yoshitsune was separated from his half-brother Yoritomo, who was exiled to Ieyasu province and would later rise to establish the Kamakura shogunate. At the tender age of 10 years old, Yoshitsune was entrusted to the monks of Kurama Temple, hidden away in the Heiei Mountains near Kyoto. It was here that his legendary martial skills began to take root. The temple's secluded environment provided a fertile ground for training in swordsmanship and strategy, which, according to popular legends, was imparted by the mythical Tengu king Sojobo, or perhaps the strategist Kichi Hogen, walking the line between mythology and history a little bit. Well, the latter, Kichi Hogen, the latter's influence on Yoshitsune was quite profound. As tales suggest, Yoshitsune even stole a valuable manuscript called The 6 Secret Teachings from Hogen to master military tactics. Of course, being secret, they must have been incredibly powerful, one can only imagine. Well, despite the monk's life laid out before him, Yoshitsune's restless spirit longed for a more unique path. His departure from Kurama Temple marked a pivotal turn in his life's journey. He was guided by a gold merchant who was familiar with his father, leading him in 1174 to Hiraizumi in the Mutsu province. Here, Yoshitsune found sanctuary under Fujiwara no Hidehira, the leader of the influential northern Fujiwara clan. This period of protection and patronage was critical, shaping the young scion into a formidable military leader. And thus his journey from a temple-raised boy to a celebrated military commander is marked by a series of dramatic events and crucial battles. One of his earliest exploits was a duel with the fearsome warrior monk Benkei, a man whose legendary strength was known far and wide. The duel eventually ended with Yoshitsune being victorious, and Benkei, in admiration of Yoshitsune's skill, swore loyalty to him and became his retainer. This partnership was cemented in blood and loyalty, lasting until their tragic end at the siege of Koromagawa, where Benkei sacrificed his life defending Yoshitsune. The Genpei War, a period of serious battles that defined much of Yoshitsune's military career, began in 1180, when Yoshitsune's estranged half-brother, Yoritomo, raised an army at the behest of Prince Mochihito. This was to challenge the Taira clan's usurpation of imperial power. Thus, Yoshitsune, seizing the opportunity to reunite with his brothers and assert his lineage's claims, joined forces with Yoritomo and another brother, Noriyori, marking their first collaboration against a common enemy. Yoshitsune's strategic brilliance came to the forefront during this conflict. His tactical skill led to decisive victories in key battles, such as the battle at Ichinotani, which is near present-day Kobe, and Yashima in Shikoku. His relentless pursuit of the Taira culminated in the dramatic Battle of Dan no Ura in Yamaguchi Prefecture, April 1185, where the Taira forces were decisively defeated, marking a significant turning point in Japanese history. A watershed moment, akin to the Battle of Hastings in English history. While the internal strife within the Minamoto clan also saw Yoshitsune's hand forced against his own cousin, Minamoto no Yoshinaka. Yoshinaka had become a rival claimant for control over the Minamoto clan, prompting Yoritomo to order Yoshitsune to deal with the usurper. Yoshitsune eventually fulfilled this grim duty at the Battle of Awazu in Omi Province, early 1184, where he defeated Yoshinaka, consolidating the Minamoto power under Yoritomo. And it did not go unnoticed. For his contributions, Yoshitsune was awarded the governance of Omi Province after his victory. His military exploits, however, would eventually lead to tensions with Yoritomo and set the stage for his tragic downfall. After the Genpei War, Yoshitsune received significant honors, including the governorship of Iyo, along with the other prestigious title from the cloistered Emperor Go Shirakawa. However, his brother Yoritomo, wary of Yoshitsune's rising influence and prestige, challenged these honors and successfully nullified them. This set the stage for a deepening rift between the brothers, fundamentally altering their relationship and leading to Yoshitsune's eventual flight from power. Amidst increasing tensions, Yoshitsune found himself needing further support, and thus sought and gained imperial authorization to form an alliance with his uncle, Minamoto no Yukie, to oppose Yoritomo's growing authoritarian grip. However, this move only deepened Yoritomo's distrust and animosity, culminating in Yoshitsune's decision to flee Kyoto in 1185. During the chaos of this period, Yoshitsune's faithful mistress, Shizuka Gozen, who was pregnant with his child, initially fled with him, but was later abandoned for her safety. She was subsequently captured by the forces of Yoritomo. Seeking refuge, Yoshitsune once again turned to the northern province of Mutsu, under the protection of the regional lord Fujiwara no Hidehira, who had previously sheltered him during his youth. Following the death of Hidehira, his son, Fujiwara no Yasuhira, initially pledged to continue his father's protection of Yoshitsune. However, under increasing pressure from Yoritomo, Yasuhira tragically betrayed Yoshitsune, leading troops to besiege his residence at Koromogawa no Tachi. The siege ended with the heroic but heartbreaking standing death of Yoshitsune's loyal retainer Benkei, who was fighting his way to protect his lord, and ultimately it forced Yoshitsune to commit seppuku. In a final act of fealty to Yoritomo, Yasuhira preserved Yoshitsune's head in sake, enclosing it in a black lacquered chest, and sent it to Yoritomo as proof of his brother's death. The aftermath of these events left a poignant mark on Japanese history, particularly concerning the unresolved fate of Shizuka Gozen and her child with Yoshitsune. And thus, the memory of Yoshitsune and legacy continue to be honored at Shirahata Jinja, a Shinto shrine located in Fujisawa. The circumstances surrounding the death of Yoshitsune are surrounded in mystery and legend. Some Ainu historical narratives suggest that Yoshitsune did not die by seppuku during the siege at Karumogawa, but instead he escaped to Hokkaido, adopting the name Okikurumi. Another, frankly fantastical tale suggests that Yoshitsune fled even further, reaching the Asian mainland and ultimately re-emerging as the Mongol conqueror Genghis Khan. Okay then, I think we can put that one firmly in the maybe pile. Well, this latter story, created by Uesugi Kenshin in 1879 while he was a student at Cambridge University, aimed to elevate Japanese prestige following the Meiji Restoration. And I imagine that no one really believes it. But we take it in good humor. It's interesting. Well, in addition, there are stories preserving in temple traditions about Yoshitsune's progeny. Henshoji Temple in Moka, Tochigi, according to its old records, mentions that Hitachibo Kaison gave a child of Yoshitsune, named Keiwaka, to a monk called Hitachi Nudonensai, as directed by Hidehira Fujiwara. Similarly, Emyoji Temple in Hirosaki, Aomori Prefecture, tells of a child named Chitose Maru, said to be Yoshitsune's offspring, who was given into the care of Date Tomamune by Kaison, after which Kaison vanished. One of the most poignant artifacts from Yoshitsune's life is the Koshigoe letter, written on the 23rd of June 1185. In this letter, Yoshitsune made a heartfelt plea to his brother, Yoritomo, expressing his loyalty and desperation. The letter reads, "So here I remain, vainly shedding crimson tears. I have not been permitted to refute the accusations of my slanderers, or even to set foot in Kamakura, but have been obliged to languish idly these many days, with no possibility of declaring the sincerity of my intentions. It is now so long since I have set eyes on his lordship's compassionate countenance, and the bond of our blood brotherhood seems to have vanished." Sanada Yukimura. Sanada Yukimura, born as the second son of Sanada Masayuki, 1547 to 1611, was a significant figure in the Sengoku period of Japan. His elder brother was Sanada Nobuyuki. Yukimura's marital life was intertwined with political alliances. He was married to Akihime, also known as Chikurin-in, who was originally the daughter of Otani Yoshitsugu, and later adopted by Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Yukimura also had 3 other wives. The first wife was related to Hota Sakube, either his daughter or sister, who was eventually supplanted by Chikurin-in, or Akihime. Another was the daughter of Takanashi Naiki, and Ryusei-in, a daughter of Toyotomi Hidetsugu. The year 1575 marked a significant turn for the family of Sanada, as the Battle of Nagashino resulted in the deaths of two of Sanada Masayuki's elder brothers. With the fall of these family members, Masayuki, who had previously served under Takeda Shingen and Takeda Katsuyori, ascended as the head of the Sanada clan and moved to Ueda Castle, taking young Yukimura with him. Some 7 years later, 1582, the landscape of power had shifted dramatically, with the Oda-Tokugawa alliance eradicating the Takeda clan. Initially, the Sanada surrendered to Oda Nobunaga, but they regained their autonomy following Nobunaga's death in the incident at Honnoji. This independence saw the Sanada navigating allegiances with various dominant daimyos, including the Uesugi clan, the later Hojo clan, and ultimately aligning themselves with the Tokugawa clan before becoming vassals under Toyotomi Hideyoshi, marking their significant integration into broader political dynamics of the era. In 1600, during the prelude to the pivotal Battle of Sekigahara, Tokugawa Ieyasu, determined to consolidate his own power, called upon various daimyos to join his campaign against Uesugi Kagekatsu. The Sanada clan, led by Masayuki and his son Yukimura, initially aligned with Ieyasu. However, things shifted again when Ishida Mitsunari mounted a challenge against Ieyasu's growing influence. In a significant turn of events, Masayuki and Yukimura opted to support Mitsunari's western forces, diverging sharply from Masayuki's eldest son, Nobuyuki, who remained with the eastern forces allied to Ieyasu. This division within the Sanada family was not merely a personal rift, but was emblematic of a broader strategic calculation at play. And it is rumored that Yukimura initially supported Ieyasu, but shifted alliances following Ieyasu's attempts to encroach upon his territory. He may have perceived it as a betrayal or threat to Sanada's autonomy. Well, the motivations behind Masayuki and Yukimura's decision to join the Western forces against Ieyasu are a subject of wide debate, but there are two main theories prevailing. The first theory suggests that Masayuki, recognizing the potential rewards of siding with the obviously weaker coalition, saw an opportunity to significantly enhance the clan's power and influence should the Western forces prevail. This perspective frames their decision as a high-stakes gamble, betting on the underdogs for a proportionately greater share of power in the victory. But on the other side, the second theory suggests that the decision was part of a calculated strategy to ensure the survival of the Sanada clan, regardless of the battle's outcome. According to this view, the family deliberated and chose to hedge their bets by splitting their allegiances, Masayuki and Yukimura with the Western army, and Nobuyuki with the Eastern forces. In a move during the Battle of Sekigahara, the Sanada clan, under the leadership of Masayuki and his son Yukimura, strategically retreated to fortify Ueda Castle. This fortification proved crucial when Tokugawa Hidetada led a force of 40,000 soldiers along the Nakasendo, aiming to suppress the Sanada resistance. Remarkably, with only 2,000 men at their disposal, the Sanada clan managed to staunchly defend the castle, significantly delaying Hidetada. This resistance caused Hidetada to abandon his siege, missing the decisive battle of Sekigahara, which ultimately solidified Tokugawa Ieyasu's rule over all of Japan. The aftermath of the battle saw the Sanada clan facing severe consequences. Their territory was confiscated by the victorious Tokugawa regime and awarded to Nobuyuki, the elder Sanada sibling who had sided with the Tokugawa. But on the other hand, Masayuki and Yukimura faced exile to Mount Koya, a punishment that marked a significant downturn in their fortunes. Not much to do at Mount Koya, I'm afraid. Well, Ueda Castle, that site of their staunch resistance, was handed over to Nobuyuki, once again deepening the divide within the Sanada family. The tension culminated when Yukimura, unable to accept Tokugawa supremacy, took up arms once again during the winter campaign of the siege of Osaka Castle in 1614. The siege was a critical series of confrontations between the Tokugawa shogunate and the remnants of the Toyotomi clan, representing the last significant threat to Tokugawa hegemony. The siege unfolded in two main stages: the winter campaign and the subsequent summer campaign of 1615, which collectively led to the destruction of the Toyotomi clan. The winter campaign of the siege of Osaka, initiated by the Tokugawa shogunate, began with a sequence of aggressive maneuvers starting on November 19, 1614, when the forces of Tokugawa, numbering approximately 3,000 men, successfully attacked and destroyed a fort across the Kizu River. This initial victory was followed by further confrontations, including an assault on the 26th of November on the village of Imafuku, where a Tokugawa contingent of 1,500 faced a defending force of 600, more than a little outnumbered. Bolstered by a unique unit of arquebusiers, the Tokugawa forces secured another victory. So, an arquebus is kind of like a musket. Think about it like that. One of those early handheld rifles. Well, as the campaign progressed, Tokugawa troops launched attacks on several smaller forts and villages, setting the stage for the larger siege of Osaka Castle that commenced on December the 4th, 1614. Sanada Yukimura, the key defender of the Toyotomi forces, responded by constructing the Sanada Maru, a strategically positioned earthwork barbican on the southwest corner of Osaka Castle. This fortification, manned by 7,000 of Yukimura's troops, proved crucial in the defense of the Tokugawa forces, which were significantly larger, estimated at around 30,000, and that's no joke. Well, despite the obvious numerical disadvantage, the defenders, who were particularly skilled in the use of their arquebusiers, managed to repel Tokugawa's assaults repeatedly. The siege saw multiple fierce engagements, where the defenders not only held their ground, but also managed to break through the siege lines on 3 occasions. Facing staunch resistance, and unable to breach the formidable defenses of Sanada Maru, Tokugawa Ieyasu resorted to artillery. His forces employed 17 brand new cannons he had gotten from the Europeans, alongside domestic wrought iron cannons, and sappers were instructed to undermine the fortress walls. Despite these efforts, the fortress remained largely impregnable, and resulted in heavy losses for Tokugawa's troops. Recognizing the formidable resistance and the mounting casualties, Ieyasu eventually chose to negotiate peace. He approached Toyotomi Hideyoshi with a proposal that ostensibly aimed at reconciliation, but included a strategic condition of dismantling the castle's outer moat. However, under the guise of this agreement, Tokugawa's envoys extended their mandate during their early entry into the castle grounds, destroying not just the outer, but also the inner moat, thereby weakening the defensive capabilities of Osaka Castle significantly. On the 3rd of June, 1615, during the final phases of the siege of Osaka, Sanada Yukimura played his crucial role in the two battles. Early in the day, he commanded the Osaka army's right wing at the Battle of Domyoji, engaging Date Masamune's forces near Emperor Jin's tomb and Konda Hachiman Shrine. The battle raged from noon until Yukimura decided to retreat to Osaka Castle by 5 p.m., regrouping for another confrontation. The following day, the Battle of Tennoji, Yukimura faced an overwhelming force of Tokugawa, reportedly of nearly 150,000 troops. Wow! Well, despite being outnumbered, with only 54,000 to 60,000 Toyotomi soldiers at his disposal, Yukimura seized the opportunity to strike at the Tokugawa lines, which were still forming up in ranks. Leading a desperate charge from Chaosuyama with Mori Katsunaga's contingent, they managed to breach Matsudaira Tadanou's crumbling vanguard. Recognizing a critical moment to potentially turn the tide, Yukimura sent his son, Sanada Daisuke, back to the castle to encourage Hideyoshi to lead a counterattack. Unfortunately, Hideyoshi's response was too slow to capitalize on the moment. Better luck next time, Hideyoshi. Amidst the fierce battle, an exhausted Yukimura collapsed on a camp stool, marking his last stand. The specifics of his death involve a subsequent encounter where he was fatally wounded by Munetsugu in a series of single combats. Initially unrecognized, Yukimura's head was severed and brought to the Tokugawa camp as a trophy. It was only upon the visit of an acquaintance from the Sanada clan that his identity was confirmed, sealing the tragic end of a formidable warrior that not many people have heard about. Well, you are now among the few people who have heard about him, so that's good. And I'd like to thank my top-tier patrons, Britt, Charles, Stark Factory, JC, Jeffrey, Wendy, Tim, James, Erin, Scott, Dark, Melissa, and Ben. Thank you very much for supporting. And if you want to see part 2 of the famous samurais, you just let me know in those comments, and I will get to work and sort it out for you. See you next time, everybody. Lots of love to you all.